Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Vegan Spirituality online gathering. We're very excited to have our special guest today. We have Ray Sikora with us from Plant Peace Daily, and we will introduce her momentarily. But first, I'd just like to take a moment and introduce myself. My name is Lisa Levinson, and I'm the director of the Sustainable Activism Campaign for In Defense of Animals. And this Vegan Spirituality online gathering is part of our special tools that we offer folks to support their activism and also to support your vegan journey. This Vegan Spirituality project has been going on for several years. We have retreats and we have several meetups across the country, and we do have these new online gatherings, which we're very excited to bring to you. And my co-host today is Judy Carmen, and she will be on the phone. So if you're online, you'll see me, and then you'll see Ray, and Judy is definitely here on the phone as well. So I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. This is Judy Carmen. I am helping Lisa with the vegan spirituality work, which she founded, and it's just a wonderful resource. The Sustainable Activism Campaign of In Defense of Animals has a lot of different resources that they can help everybody with to sustain their activism, and one of those is the vegan spirituality, and that's what we're doing tonight. I also have a circleofcompassion.org campaign which offers resources as well, and a prayer circle for animals Facebook. So that's a little bit about some of the resources, but you can find out more online at In Defense of Animals. I wanted to introduce our guest speaker. We're so excited to have her with us. Ray has been a full-time spokesperson for other species and for the environment for over 35 years. So she is an expert. She's been in this for many, many years and can teach us a lot about sustaining our activism and sticking with it and not getting burned out and quitting. So she's co-founder of Plant Peace Daily, also of Veg Fund, and also of the Institute for Humane Education. She leads compassionate living and ethical consumerism programs internationally for diverse audiences. She's been all over the world talking to schools, prisons, businesses, universities, and getting the word out to liberate animals from the domination that they're experiencing. Tonight, we asked Ray to talk a little bit about how her veganism and her spiritual journey interconnect with each other and how that helps her sustain her activism for all these years. And so that she's going to talk about that for about 20 minutes or so, and then we'll open up for questions. And so anything you want to ask Ray, just make a little note, and then when she's finished with her talk, we can open it up for questions. So, Ray?
Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. I think that really this is one of the most powerful things that we can do is support each other in sustaining our activism and just sustaining us and supporting each other for being a voice for those without a voice. You know, it's really one of the most challenging and rewarding jobs to be chosen for on the planet. And I say chosen for because I don't remember ever saying, oh, this is what I'm going to do for my work. I think that all along the way that different situations popped up, and I had a choice at those moments to say, yes, I'm going to do this, or no, I'm not. And so I really feel like the work chose me. And that has really been part of my spiritual practice, is to trust what is in front of me and say, oh, is this the best way that I can help the planet while I'm here? And it keeps showing up in front of me, and sometimes I'm like, oh no, do I really want to do this? one of the first things that showed up in front of me many, many years ago. I mean, I've been doing this work now for almost 40 years, but different things show up, and you're not sure you're ready for them, and that is a spiritual practice. You feel like you have to be a warrior. I was an incredibly shy person, and I was asked to do my first program when I was 18, and it was for a large church. I was so nervous. They said, "You're the animal person, so, do this program for us." And it was a large congregation. I was a wreck. I wasn't a public speaker. I didn't even want to speak to someone one-on-one. I was painfully shy. And I thought, I've got to do this. I have to be the voice for the animals because I can. And I put together a slideshow, and I'll never forget. I was terrified. I stood in the back of the room in the dark and presented the slideshow while I spoke. And then at the end of it, someone said, "Oh, someone turn on the lights." I said, "No, why don't we leave the lights off?" I love this last slide because I was so shy. I was like, "Please don't make me get up there in front of the room with the lights on." So we all sat there in the dark looking at this slide while everyone was asking me questions. And it was just like the first of many challenges in how can I go beyond my comfort zone to show up in the best way possible for social justice for all beings. And, I think that it has worked both ways. Like, my spiritual practice has been incredibly enhanced by my activism and education work. And my activism and education work has been enhanced by my conscious spiritual practice. Now, I tend to think everything can be a spiritual practice, and but there's also when we do this intentional spiritual practice. So I have, done meditation. I've done the work of Byron Katie. I don't know if you're familiar with her work. She wrote the book called Loving What Is, and I volunteered at her schools as staff many times because that woman had a lot to teach me about being peaceful in the world as it is and still showing up in my integrity and honesty. So, I have those conscious spiritual practices. I do Vipassana meditation. But honestly, the most powerful practice that I have is doing tabling or, it's constant. My partner, JC, says, "You are always on duty." And I think that it's true. My job doesn't end, at a certain time of day. And so if I bump into someone, we had an experience, we were at this massage school, and we were getting student massages there, and this woman came flying in, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm late for my massage." And she sat down right next to me, and she said, "I've been working at the farmer's market. We are saving a heritage breed of cattle." And I said, "Oh, you're saving them. That's great. So you're not killing them." And she looked a little shocked by my response. And she said, No. She said, it's beef. And I said, "Oh." I said, "You raise them from babies?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Wow, that must be so hard. You raise them from babies and then you have to kill them." And she said, "Well, no, we don't kill them. We send them to Colorado." And so they go 10 hours up to Colorado and they're killed, and then the beef comes back. And I said, "That must be really hard, putting them on a truck after you've raised them from babies. Is it hard?" And she said, she got really quiet, and she said, "Well, we would never send Herbie." And I said, "Who's Herbie?" And she said, "Well, Herbie was a 4-H project. Everybody loves Herbie." And I said, "Oh, what makes Herbie special?" She said, "Well, he's Herbie." I said, "Oh, I got that. How is he special? How is he different from the others?" And then she got really quiet, and she said, "Well, he's not really different from the others, but he's Herbie." I said, "So they're all special?" And she said, "Well, I guess so." I said, "So is it hard? You raised these babies." And she got teary-eyed. She said, "Yeah, it's hard." And, so that, for me, that moment is my spiritual practice. How do I sit there with this person who makes a living from killing the very beings who I'm trying to speak for? And how do I speak with her in a way that keeps her heart open, and doesn't make her just shut down around what we're talking about, to keep that heart-to-heart dialogue open. And it's been quite a practice for me, because, sometimes we just want to shout at people, how the hell could you do that? And so I think the Vipassana meditation has helped a lot. I remember coming out of one meditation, and there were gunshots, and I do a 10-day Vipassana course each year, and it's silent from 4:30 in the morning until 9 at night. All you're doing is meditating, but it's 10 days of silence, and you aren't doing eye contact, nothing, no body language. You are just meditating, eating, sleeping. And I came out of one long session, and this was at a meditation center in Texas, one of the Vipassana centers, and it was hunting season, and there were gunshots all around. And I remember feeling that for the first time I didn't get angry about the gunshots. I felt an empathy for each of the hunters. It was an amazing moment, because in my day-to-day life, when I'm not so super present, like I am at the meditation center and during a 10-day silent course, in my day-to-day life, I would have been heartbroken, I would have been sad, I would have been angry, but the practice is fabulous. It's just really a way of just observing things for what they are and not having big reactions, because they don't serve us, those big reactions. So, I've had to learn to do this, and the best grist for my mill has been tabling, activism, just being in the world as someone who's a voice for other species, because, as probably every listener knows, it's constant. It is constant that there is someone talking about taking a kid to the rodeo or to the circus, anything. I used to be vegan, I used to be vegetarian. We're always having to have these dialogues. And I shouldn't say having to, we get to. Each of them is a gift. Every time we have one of those dialogues, because it's an opportunity to show up as this loving invitation to a possibility. Rather than say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, we get to say, I want to invite you to this possibility of a community that has compassion for all beings. And it's a very different way of doing activism. I know when I originally started, I was quite the angry little activist. And it wasn't all that effective, honestly. And I really learned, what really works for people is not being blamed or told that they're bad, but being shown the best part of themselves, and that people can rise to that. And I think I might have, Lisa was here visiting. It was great. I think I might have told you about this. JC and I were going into a hardware store, and this couple was coming out, and they were wearing full-length fur coats, a man and a woman. And I said to my partner, JC, I'll meet you in there. I wanted to talk to these people who are coming out. He said, no, I'll just wait right here by the truck and see what happens. And so I followed this couple to their car, and they got into a little fancy sports car with Florida plates that said Save the Dolphins or something like that. They had paid more for dolphin conservation. And so I went and I knocked on the window of the car, and the guy let the window down. I said, hi. I said, are you from Florida? And he said, yeah, we are. And she said, yes, we are. I said, you have the dolphin plates. So what I know about you is that you're really caring people. And I'm so happy that you care enough about animals that you would have gotten those plates. Yes, we do. And so then I said, I have an invitation for you. And they looked kind of excited. I think they thought I was going to invite them to a party or something. And I said, the next time that you are at a computer, I would invite you, because you're really caring people, I would invite you to research the amount of suffering and death and pain that went into the coats that you're wearing. Because I know you're really caring people. And he looked straight ahead. He was a little shocked by what I had just said. And she looked me right in the eye as he was rolling up the window. to stop the interaction. But she looked me right in the eye and she said, thank you so much. Thank you. She was looking right at me. And I want to speak to that part of people, that part that I know is compassionate and caring, because we all have it. You know, some of us it's more obvious when you first meet some of us, and some of us it's not so obvious when you meet us, but we're all compassionate inside, and sometimes it's buried under our experiences or our ways of reacting in the world, but we all have it, and that's what I want to speak to in people, is that most compassionate part of them. So that for me has been a real spiritual practice, because I've worked in some of the most violent areas of the world, and witnessed horrendous violence. I've worked in the Middle East, and I've witnessed a lot of violence there on a daily basis, and in South America, Central America, Mexico, all over, and right here in the United States. And when we choose to do this work, I think that is part of it, is that we're witnessing, we're looking at what a lot of people won't look at. And so I think having a spiritual practice is necessary as part of that.
Yeah.
And to see that as a gift every single time we witness something. It's not so much about what we're witnessing as much as how am I going to react to this, and how am I going to react in a way that spreads love rather than more violence. So I feel like they're so intertwined, the spiritual path and the vegan activist, vegan educator path.
Mm-hmm. That was so beautifully said, Ray. I really appreciate the way that you reach people from the heart, and that is the true path of compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Those are amazing stories.
Oh, thank you, Judy. I think we've probably all experienced this, but sometimes you have to stop, because the first reaction is, am I allowed to swear on here? Am I allowed to swear on here? How the F? There we go. I'll shorten it. I'll say it another way.
Oh, okay, great.
The reaction is often, how the F can someone do this? And sometimes that's your first reaction inside, because you're so shocked that this can be happening to this living being. And then sometimes I'll stop and I'll breathe and I'll just think, what is the best thing I can do for the animals? UPS just showed up, I think. Sorry, everyone. Can you hear the dog?
It's okay. Yeah, just a little.
Okay. I think it's just stopping and saying what really will serve the planet, the animals, all life on Earth best. Mm-hmm. And, we have tried for centuries as a species reacting with equal violence to what comes at us or to what we see. And that hasn't had great results. So I think that it's very, very powerful to just slow down and say, really question our motives, our reactions. I'm going to try and move away from where UPS is coming.
Oh, that's okay. I appreciate this whole way of looking at activism. And the IDA president, Dr. Marilyn Kroplik, she coined the term of love-based activism. And I like that idea, because it really is about love. And how do we promote love with our activism? And we can only really do that if we reach the other person's heart. And I think that's what you do so effectively, Ray. That's like where you meet people, and they hear you, they listen, and they make changes in their lives. And it's really beautiful to witness that.
I think it's not certainly about me as much as it's a surrender for me. I feel like I am a conduit for sort of the greater good. Whatever is going to come through me is going to come through me. So the best part about it is that it feels like it actually doesn't have anything to do with me, which is really nice. That I just have to get out of the way and let this come through the conduit of who I am, because I have a voice to use. Okay, I'm going to use it. And it doesn't really it doesn't work with everyone. Even it doesn't matter if I am very loving with some people, and I can no longer do. I do this invitation to a peaceful community is what we call our demos at circuses, at rodeos, and we can no longer do the rodeo ones because at the rodeo the crowd is very violent, and so we get bottles thrown at us, we get spit on. It's very, very violent, and so we don't put ourselves out there anymore. And I had to really rethink it. Like, are we doing more harm or more good by being there? Because it discourages anyone who shows up for the demo. They feel beaten up, and it's very difficult. So now we have a whole new thing we do before the rodeo, is that I print up hundreds and hundreds of colored posters that show the reality of rodeo and have quotes from veterinarians. And so we have a whole large group of people who post these all over town. You can't go anywhere in Santa Fe without seeing these just before the rodeo. And that has been, it's worked much better for us. We have other ways that we're doing it now. And so, we have to kind of reinvent it, because sometimes no matter how loving you show up, if someone isn't ready to receive that kind of a compassionate message, they're going to react in their old ways. And so, we do that, and we contact businesses who are supporting the rodeos, asking them to please support a compassionate community and to not support the rodeo. And so we do that. We do more inviting work, inviting people to the reality and other possibilities.
I love that language of inviting people to this kind community. Do you have, one question I had was about the language that you use about your spirituality when you're talking to other activists, because I've noticed a lot of activists are so turned off by religion that even the word spirituality is a put-off for them. And the word God, the word prayer, there's lots of words that a lot of activists really don't like. So do you have some other phrases that you use that help activists understand what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that you're right, Judy, that there are a lot of those words that are triggers for people. I have a lot of people in my community grew up in like fundamentalist families, and those families, it did some damage to a lot of these young people who are now adults, and they don't want anything to do with anything that at all has any essence of religion or God or spirituality. And so sometimes, I'll use like similar words to what I used here. When someone asks me what my religion is, and people do ask you that, and they certainly ask me, and I say, oh, my religion, my religion is I don't know. That's what I call my religion, because I'm always seeking truth. Like, that, I guess, is my spiritual path. I'm looking for truth. So my religion is I don't know, because from my experience, every place I've been on my path where I think I have what are those big answers, it changes because I stay open to new information. So I think, it's always really, either way, Judy, the language thing can be tough. If you have somebody who's very, very religious, then you can have those elements. I had someone who came up to me and just meeting me, and she's actually someone who is a relative of someone who's very, very close to me, and she's meeting me for the first time, and she didn't actually say hello that I remember. She said, "Can you accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior?" And that kind of threw me off. I grew up in a Jewish family, but I don't have Jewish as a religion. I don't have any religion that I follow. And I said, I am not closed to the idea, but I can't base my choices on your experience. I have to base my choices on my own experience. And if one day I have the same experience as you, and that what you just asked me about accepting Jesus Christ as my personal Savior sounds like truth to me, and feels like truth, then I'm open to that. I'm not closed to any truth, and I hope you're not closed to any truth, and we're always evolving. So our truths grow and they change. And she got this big smile. I was kind of shocked, and she said, "But you're not closed." I said, "No, I'm not closed to any truth, but it has to be my experience, not just based on someone else's experience." And she gave me a big hug, and she said, "But you're not closed." I said, "No, I'm not closed to it." You know, because we don't know what we're going to experience tomorrow. Yeah, she was used to closed. Definitely. And, you know, I tend to try not to use any language. You know, when I work in the Middle East, I am working with so many religions. I'm working with Muslim, Jews, and Druze, D-R-U-Z-E. Sometimes all in the same room, all at the same time. And, you know, they all want to go there. They all want to go to their religion. And so I have to find what's our common path? What's our common path as just humans on Earth? And what is that in terms of a spiritual path? And, you know, I think it gets a little, when we separate spiritual path from life path, that's when I think it gets troublesome, because I think our life path is our spiritual path. And when we separate them out, we can say, oh, yeah, that's, you know, I'm going to go to my spiritual center tonight, but right now I'm going to sit down to this hamburger. You know, it's you know, and we have quite an issue with it, I think, not just in our town and in our state. I think it's everywhere. There's a group called Dharma Voices for Animals who's working really hard to get the spiritual community to even come on board with their consistency around their values versus their choices as a spiritual community. You know, so we have Buddhist centers who serve animal products, and Maizapasana centers. They serve dairy products, and it's. I think that's the most powerful education, work, and practice that we can have, is how do we always show up in our practice, in our spiritual practice, and understand that everybody around us is in their spiritual practice, even if it doesn't look like it. You know, even if it looks like they're a mess. That is their practice.
Or if they don't like the word spiritual. And, so sometimes I talk about spirituality as being from the heart sometimes, and that seems to help people.
Yeah, and you can also ask people. Yeah, you could also ask them, like, oh, if you're not comfortable with the word spirituality, what would your word be when you are acting from your heart? How would you describe that when you are living from your heart, from your deepest core values?
Yeah,
what would that be for you?
Yeah. Should we open up for questions, Lisa?
Sure, let's do that. I think that's a good idea. If you have any questions, this is a great time to ask them.
It's not so much a question, it's a comment. And I am so amazingly filled with gratitude for what Ray was talking about today. I haven't found a group of people yet close to me that are living what you're talking about. And to me, I feel that it is all my spiritual practice, and that being a vegan is the only way to do this, to walk one's truth in the most peaceful way possible. So I want to thank you, and I sent you a friend request by Facebook so I can follow you, because I think you have so much to say that really touches my heart. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for that. What's your name? Are you still there?
Oh, I'm Trish.
Oh, hi, Trish. You were the first one who came on, and you're in Canada.
Yes, I'm up here in Canada.
Wow. Thank you for your kind words. And, I think, wow, all of us, I'm always saying, it takes a village, it takes a village. We all have these beautiful gifts that we bring to this. So you are up in BC, I think that's where you are, and you're sharing your light there and probably beyond there. And I also think it's important to, you said you don't have a community who shares that, and that is such a difficult position to be in. I end up in that position a lot through my work, where I'm like, wow, I feel like this little tiny voice behind a giant waterfall, and you wonder if anyone can hear that voice. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, is that there are people who can hear you, even if you don't know it. There are people who are watching you as a beautiful example of compassion just in how you live, even if they never hear your words. And that, it's really powerful, and you don't know when it's going to tip for someone. 5 minutes before I was vegetarian, I wasn't. 5 minutes before I was vegan, I wasn't. And you don't know when you're standing in front of someone like me who is ready for someone like you. And, there's a really wonderful book called The Tipping Point, and I think my favorite thing about it is knowing that we don't need all of us. We don't need 100% of the people to be on board for the entire culture to tip. It was 13% of the people in the U.S. who were on board with abolishing African slaves and making that illegal to have African slaves. It was 13%. That's a very small percentage. And then when it tipped and it became illegal, we had abolished legal slavery, all these people claimed, I can't remember what the total was, but it was like a huge percentage, like 80% of the people claimed that they were always on board because they want to be on the right side of justice. So we don't have an easy role because, we are not the majority, but we have a really powerful role. We've all been called because we have something to contribute to this. And so we've been, by some, and maybe this smacks of religion or spirituality, that's okay. But I feel like we're part of some greater plan. I think we're moving toward compassion as a species, and we get to be on the front lines. And I say get to because it's an honor to do. As much as it's difficult, it's an honor. So I'm grateful for you, Trish. I'm grateful that you're in British Columbia doing what you're doing, and then I get inspired just to hear about you there and know that there's someone there spreading that kind of compassion. It's great.
Yeah, there's so few of us now that we are really spread apart, spread out. But that tipping point is that's the thrilling thing. We know that we don't need every single person to raise the consciousness of humanity to kindness. I wanted to mention, you had talked about Byron Katie and Ray, and I have studied her too, and I think she's amazing. And I don't know if she's vegan or not, but one thing that I really got from her is this one question that you can ask yourself: if I didn't have that thought, how would I feel? And I think that's a revolutionary thing to say to yourself when you're having negative thoughts, anger, depression, whatever it may be. So I love that.
That's powerful. Yeah, she has so much that is so powerful in it. And I can tell you, in answer to that other question, she won't call herself something like vegan. She will never identify as something like that. But I have at about 6 of the different 10-day schools, I always end up in the kitchen. I don't know why. I always end up running these kitchens. And so I've cooked her and Stephen's meals, her partner Stephen's meals, and they never have animal products, never.
Really? Oh, that's wonderful, isn't it?
So, but she won't identify as something like that. No way. No, but the questions are so powerful. Even the one,
they are.
Does having this thought bring you peace or stress? To ask yourself that is so powerful. And I've done the work with a lot of people who thought they were always going to have this stressful thought, this sometimes self-destructive thought for their whole life. And in a half hour, it shifts. It can shift for them, you know. And sometimes we're really attached to that thought or that idea so strongly, even if it causes us and others stress, that we're afraid to let go of it. You know, so I love asking people another Byron Katie question, which is, who would you be without that thought?
Right.
You know, who would you be? And you know, it's a really powerful one. And you know, and also one of the, I think it's a really important thing to remember in our work with people who don't seem like they're on the same compassionate path as us, because where they are is so phenomenally different from where we're at that we're like, wait, this person cannot be heading to the same compassionate place that I am. But it's really important to remember that when we are talking with that person, that is just another person who is in their process. So what are our thoughts about them? Who would I be without my thought about who this person is who I'm talking to right now? Because, you know, have you ever had just like really strong stereotypes about someone, sometimes based on nothing more than how they look? Have you ever experienced that? Like, you know, it's like judgments or it's assumptions, and I've had it. And I love when my assumptions get blown out of the water, because my stereotypes have been blown out of the water so many times that now I don't trust my stereotypes about people anymore, which is a very good place for me to be. And, you know, I mean, things like I sat on this little airplane, and, you know, so I'm often flying places for work, and I was, like, sitting on this airplane, and I just bring my own food. I had one of those little tiffins from India, those little metal containers with my meal, and I was on a tiny plane, and across the aisle was this guy. A flash judgment I had about him: he's a golfer. We have nothing in common. He's just one of those older, wealthy guys. We have nothing in common, and God, I hope he doesn't talk to me. And I kind of turned my back toward him so I could have a little privacy, and I opened my tiffin, and he says, "What have you got there?" And I'm thinking, oh, geez, here it goes. You know, and I said, "Oh, it's my lunch." And he said, "Yeah, what is it?" I said, "Well, it's brown rice, this stuff called tempeh." He says, "I love tempeh." And then he gets my attention. I turn toward him, like, what? I said, "How do you know tempeh?" He said, "Well, I'm vegan." And I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it, you know. So I turned toward him and I said the stupidest thing. It was so stupid what I said, because it showed I had a stereotype. I said, "Why are you vegan? Why are you vegan?" It was so stupid. And he said, "Oh, I had, first it was because I had bypass surgery and the doctors weren't giving me any information about how to prevent it in the future. So I did my own research and realized I needed to be plant-based. And then I went beyond that to realize, oh, I can help the planet and I can help animals." And I was just blown away. You know, talk about a stereotype being blasted. So I love it. I love it when someone like that shows up, and I realize that what goes on in my head is mostly fiction. What goes on in my heart is a whole other thing. But in my head, that's fiction up there.
Beautiful.
Yes, this is Karen. And
Hello,
Hi, Ray, I am very impressed by what you're saying and feeling. It was really touching and helpful to hear you, and I just wanted to tell you that in person, as it were. I myself would love to live in Veganville, and it can be very isolating as a vegan, as an activist. But I do what I can, and so your words are very, very touching. I just even loved what you just said. What's in my what is it? Is fiction?
In my head is fiction.
And what's in my heart is real. I think you could write that down. I'll make a poster out of it, you know. It's great. I've
never said it before
also
this
been
moment.
doing it for 40-plus years, and sometimes it's hard to sustain, and this is very helpful. And this was great, Ray, and I just wanted to tell you that in person.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Karen.
That's all
I wish
I have
you
to
were
say.
here in person.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, that would be great.
Including that woman from Canada. We'll all go to
Yeah,
Veganville.
Trish.
Yes. In fact, I'll just take a moment to say, this is Lisa speaking. That's partly why we put together these vegan spirituality retreats. We want us all to be in one place at least once a year so that we can share time together and have conversations and relate to one another. And actually, we've had Ray has been our speaker at one of our vegan spirituality retreats. So please stay tuned to those. That's what happens at those events. We have an opportunity to really connect and explore veganism as a spiritual path and what that means for us.
Terrific.
And
You'll let me know, Lisa.
we have. I will let you know. We have one in Philadelphia coming up on the 19th of September. So that will be a fun event. If any of you are interested, I'll put the link in the chat box here so you can follow up if you'd like. But it's a wonderful opportunity to really be together.
May I ask, Ray,
Yes.
if you have a few minutes to talk again about confronting people in a non-confronting way, whatever your experience is? I'm sure you've had many.
Is it
some
Karen?
more examples? Yes.
Is it Karen? Oh, hi, Karen.
Yes, it's Karen, yes.
You know what might be fun? I wonder if we have time. Yes, we have time. Okay. Share briefly one of your most challenging experiences in doing that. Like, what was the scenario, and can you think of one?
Yes, many. Okay, I was, this happened 20 plus years ago. I was online at a post office, and there was a woman, 2-3 people in front of me, and she was wearing a raccoon hat. And it was a pretty crowded post office, and I said very loudly, that hat is a symbol of cruelty. And she told me it was none of my business, and I told her cruelty is my business.
That was a powerful
I'm not without
way
my techniques too over the years, but for example, and nobody said anything, but the guy in front of me whispered to me, and it looked stupid too. So, but I used to see that more where other places I've lived, that people would walk around with rabbit skin coats and I would I'd go to, excuse me, do you know how many rabbits it took to make that jacket? Rabbits were killed to make that jacket, that sort of thing. So I don't, it's hard to keep your anger in check. It's hard for me to keep my anger in check, though I try to. But what's the best way to handle that? With a hunter, with somebody with a rodeo sticker on their car?
I have.
Or folks,
thank you so much for sharing that, because that at least gives me a direction of, this type of situation that you're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to tell you how I would handle it, but that doesn't mean that is necessarily how you should handle it. You have to do what has for you the most sincerity. What I have, in order to sustain myself in this work for decades, I've had to find some tools so that I'm not running around like an angry person swinging a bat, because I felt like that for years. And so one of the things that I've tried to do is, my favorite tool to use is, instead of trying to make sure that person understands me and where I'm coming from, I try to understand them. And that has changed everything for me. It's been a total game changer. So I'll give you an example. I sat on a bus, and I was sitting, I didn't realize till I sat down, I was sitting right next to someone in a full-length fur coat. So I'm giving this example because it's similar to your post office one. And I said, when are you getting off the bus? And she told me her stop, and I said, we have some time together. That's good. And I said, don't be scared, but I'm going to tell you I'm an animal rights activist. That's my full-time work. I speak for animals. And I never actually get to just sit and talk with someone who's wearing fur. Never. And so I'm wondering if you would be okay with just sharing your experience with me. You know, how you came to the conclusion that you're comfortable purchasing and wearing a fur coat. You know, what was your process? How did you get there? So if you're comfortable sharing that, that would be great. And she said, I don't need to share that with you. I said, oh, I know that. You don't need to share it with me, but I would really appreciate it because I never get to have this kind of conversation. And then she shared it. She shared why she had the coat. You know, her mother had a fur coat, all the women in her family. You know, it was like this family tradition, and she loved wearing fur. And I said, so was it a choice just mostly from tradition, but not necessarily from, I'm going to research this purchase and find out everything it took? And she said, no, I did not research the purchase. And I said, okay, because I'm one of those people who researches all my purchases because I want to know, was there slave labor? How does it affect the environment? How does it affect other living beings? All of it, my own health. You know, I said, maybe I do it a little too much, but this is what I wanted to know. You know, is it something that just isn't part of your life? And we had this great conversation for so many stops. I can't remember how long we were together, but it was quite a while because it was a long bus ride. And that for me is, that's what I want to know. I want to understand their heart. I want to understand what is their process of being okay with it. Does it include researching the reality of what it took to make that and then disregarding it? Or was there no research process? Like, I really want to understand it. So she and I had a great conversation, and I thanked her for sharing with me, and I got off the bus first and said goodbye to her, and that was it. But who knows what happens after that? Maybe she thinks about it a little bit. I don't know. But at the very least, I understand her process a little bit more. And she understands that not all animal rights activists are going to be like that mythological terrorist in her head who are going to throw red paint on her. If that's all that happened, it's okay. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, we do have one. We have one other question. So I just want to let you know that, keep going, but we have one other question before our time is done together. So
I think we can go ahead to that question. I mean, really, I was just saying that for me, I use this tool because it keeps me in the work and keeps me energized to, I just feel like my tool is I want to understand where they're coming from more than have them understand me.
Ray, can I just say one thing quickly? Do you have
an
email? I know you have a website, but I haven't had a lot of good luck in putting in contact forms and then coming out at the other end. Do you have an email you'd share, or may I get that from Lisa?
Sure, you can get it from Lisa. It's just ray@plantpeacedaily.org. And it's all one word, Plant Peace Daily.
Okay, thank you very much.
And you can contact me anytime.
I will.
And I will put that into the chat box for everyone. I did post Ray's website, but I'll post her email as well. So Trish, did you have a question you'd like to ask?
Yes, I have a specific question about practice. Ray sounds like, and I know Lisa as well as Judy, you're all extremely compassionate people towards other human beings. And that's a challenge for me. So I was wondering if Ray could suggest particular practices I could do, before I'm in a situation where I need to be compassionate towards a person, kind of to develop this compassion every day a little bit. Do you have any suggestions? I know you mentioned the Vipassana retreat, something that it would be more like each day rather than just waiting for the retreat, because I can't go to the retreat.
I think that any meditation practice is helpful, and any practice that brings you back to a place of not reacting. Like when we react, we're either having an aversion to something that happened in the past, or we're having a craving for something we want to happen in the future. And that is every reaction we have is one or the other. So when you get into a meditation practice, you learn to be in between those two. You're not in the past, you're not in the future, you are in the present. And it's a very hard feeling to describe or experience to describe, but the experience when you have that, and the more you practice it, like even if you practice meditation 15 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day, good, that's it, that's your practice. Even if it's while you're walking, if you're just silent and focusing on your breath, whatever your practice is that brings you into the present, not that mind chatter that's like, oh, I want this, oh, I don't like that, oh, I do like this. You know, and that is the most powerful thing, because then when you are facing someone, you're not craving that they should be someone different. You're not having an aversion to who they are. You are right there with them, no matter what their history is. And you also see yourself in them. And you realize that people are having to do that with you too. You know, you're not perfectly formed. There are people who have compassion in areas that you don't. And there are people who don't have compassion that you do. And so when we can stay really open to each other like that, we all get to be more compassionate. Because all of us are still evolving. I don't know. I've met a lot of human beings, and I haven't met the perfectly evolved one yet, the finished product. Not yet.
Thanks, Ray. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thanks for asking those questions to all the folks who spoke up today, because that's part of our experience as being a community. So it's nice to hear from everyone.
It is. It's lovely.
Yeah. So it's about 6, and I don't know if it's time for us to bring out the grand finale PowerPoint poem.
So I'm going to ask everyone who's there to close your eyes right now. You're all okay doing that wherever you are, with that phone up to your ear, wherever you are, just close your eyes and take a really deep breath. And I'm going to read one of my favorite Rumi poems to you, and it's called The Guest House.
Oh, I love that one.
This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And then you can take another deep breath. You can open your eyes. I really want to thank everyone who took part in this, and Lisa and Judy for your hard work making this happen and being the compassionate glue that brings us all together.
Well, thank you, Ray, for being with us. Everything you said was just a gem, and I know it inspired me, and I'm sure everybody else. So thank you so much for being with us.
And I want to thank you as well. It's a real true delight to hang on your every word. And for those folks who are online, I did post The Guest House by Rumi, and that poem will be sent as part of it will be sent when we share the replay link with you. Everyone who registered for this event will also get a replay link in about a week or so. So Thank you so, so very much for joining our community today, and for those folks who are joining online even beyond today. And just know that we are part of that waterfall that Ray mentioned. We're all streaming down the mountain together, and together we're that voice. We're the rush of the bubbling spring, the water coming down off the mountain, and we have something to say, and it's about compassion, and that's what unites all of us as part of vegan spirituality. So thanks to each of you for opening your heart to that message and for sharing it with people around you in all sorts of ways. So I'll also mention that we do have these calls every month, and our next one will be on September 10th. And we look very forward to having you then. And a couple last details. I know that Ray mentioned Vipassana. That's something that I've experienced too. It's a meditation retreat, but you can do them all around the world, and they're essentially free. You can spend either from 3 days to 10 days to longer learning about this technique, and it's a great resource. Then Trish, you mentioned you wanted something to take home with you. Then when you go home, you adapt what you learned during the week or weekend to your home life. So it could be a 15-minute meditation or an hour meditation or a walking meditation, as Ray mentioned. So these resources are in the general spiritual community, but they're also great for vegan activists and those of us who consider veganism as our spiritual path. Thanks to everyone for joining us, and please unmute yourselves if you can so we can have a group goodbye. It's really fun to hear everybody's voice. So have a wonderful evening, and thanks so much. Goodbye, everyone.
Good night.
Compassion rules. Thank you.
Yay!
Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.